I grasped the hem of my dress, the delicate silk cool against my fingertips. In a single fluid motion, I lifted it over my head, letting it fall in a whisper of fabric to the floor. Silence descended upon the room, a sudden heavy vacuum broken only by the sound of our collective breathing. 3 sets of eyes were fixed on me, their gazes so intense, so full of a mixture of shocked desire and disbelief, that it felt as though they were seeing me for the first time. Perhaps they were. Perhaps I was seeing myself for the first time. With measured, deliberate steps, I moved forward into the center of the room, my expression a mask of calm neutrality, letting the thick, charged silence speak for itself. I approached Mason first, savoring the palpable tension that thickened with every step I took. When I reached him, I leaned in and pressed my lips to his, a kiss that was steady, unwavering, and absolute. It was a kiss that made a promise I had always known, that nothing and no one could ever stand in my way. This is a story that exists in the spaces between rules, a story about a woman who refused to be defined by a single love, a single desire. It is not a simple story, but the truth rarely is. Before we proceed into the heart of this tangled web, I invite you to take a moment to appreciate this journey. If you would consider subscribing to our channel, it would help us reach more people and allow these unbelievable true stories to continue to unfold. Thank you for your support. Now let's begin. The memory of that first night with Mason still felt like a brand on my skin. He stood nearby, his presence, commanding the room, filling the space with an unmistakable tension that was both his and mine. My cheeks sank into the pillow, my breath catching as he maintained a steady, relentless pace. This wasn't gentle. No, it was swift and sure, a desperate, almost frantic energy, as if he couldn't stop even if he wanted to. And though he tried to lead, I flowed with him, my body instinctively matching his rhythm. My fingers gripped the cool cotton sheets with a fierce white-knuckled intensity as a profound heat surged through me, each powerful movement taking me further away from myself. A sharp cry escaped my lips, louder than I'd intended, a raw sound of pure, unadulterated pleasure. He didn't falter. His hold on me shifted, his strong hands lifting me upright onto my knees, one arm wrapping firmly around my waist to steady me. The change in position was jarring, demanding. I reached back, longing for a connection beyond the physical, my hand finding his shoulder. He responded with a deep, gravelly tone, a guttural sound that resonated deep within me, striking a chord in my very core. For a fleeting moment, his rhythm faltered, his control slipping. Then he leaned back into me, this time, slower, with a renewed sense of control, guiding each movement with a deliberate, possessive intentionality. His breath hitched the world, seeming to close in around him, the warmth of his chest a solid wall against my back. The moment wrapped itself around us, both a cocoon of heat and skin, and shared ragged breaths. Trembling, my own skin alight, every nerve ending on fire, I leaned into the feeling. We stayed there suspended in time for what felt like an eternity. Eventually, he released me, collapsing beside me on the bed as I fought to regain my breath, my body still humming with the aftershocks. His voice finally broke the thick silence, soft and laced with an uncertainty that was so characteristic of him. Maybe this was a mistake. I shifted my gaze from the ceiling to his face, my lips brushing against the softness of the pillow. "Do you regret it?" I asked quietly. He let out a soft, thoughtful chuckle, the sound low and contemplative. "I don't have the answer," he admitted, "but maybe my dad or Adam could shed some light on it." I turned away, my thoughts swirling. This was the heart of the issue, the reason for the strange, tense energy that had permeated our lives for the past few weeks. "What's going on with them?" I asked, though I already suspected the answer. "They've been acting so strange lately." "Adam asked me if I've been fading away," he replied, his voice tinged with a confusion that I knew was only half real. "And my dad, he just keeps giving me this look, this knowing look like he knows something I don't." I rolled onto my back, the sheet slipping down to my waist as I stared up into the darkness, lost in thought. "So they harbor doubts," I mused. He paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. "Are you not concerned?" I elongated my limbs, stretching like a cat, the vibrations of our recent passion still resonating deep within my body. I turned to him and smiled a slow, deliberate smile. Doesn't this just add an element of thrill? The knock on my front door the next morning was a forceful, percussive impact. 3 sudden knocks that startled me from the depths of my thoughts. The dawn had just begun to break, casting a pale gray light into my kitchen. I had yet to even finish brewing my coffee. I was wearing a simple soft t-shirt and a pair of sleep shorts, the remnants of sleep still lingering in my eyes. I cracked the door open just enough to peek through. Jack stood there, Mason's father. His serene, almost stoic demeanor was perfectly in place, but his gaze was unwavering, sharp as if he possessed a deep prior knowledge of everything. "Good morning," he remarked, his voice calm but with an undercurrent of steel. I swung the door open wider, schooling my own expression into one of calm, detached surprise. "Jack, I didn't anticipate your arrival so early." He entered without hesitation, his eyes sweeping across my living room, taking in every detail before pivoting to meet my gaze. I felt it was the right moment for us to have a conversation. With my arms crossed, I stood there, a silent challenge. "A conversation about what you, me, and Mason." I chose not to respond, letting the silence stretch. He advanced with measured, deliberate intent. "Do you really believe I haven't seen it? The way his gaze lingers on you? The way his gait as he exits this place suggests a weariness that lingers for days, as if sleep has eluded him for countless nights." I remained unyielding, my face a carefully constructed mask of innocence. "Perhaps he just has a lot on his mind." Jack held his gaze for a long moment, his eyes searching mine for a crack in the facade. "I'm not here to pass judgment," he said, his voice softening slightly, "but I find it hard to accept the pretense that this is all insignificant." "I never claimed it was," I replied, my voice quiet but firm. He cast his gaze upon me once more, this time with a deliberate, almost invasive slowness, his eyes traveling from my face down the length of my body. "It seems you have little concern for the appearance of this, don't you?" I stepped closer, just within reach, close enough for him to feel the warmth of my presence. "I care," I declared, "merely not in the manner you anticipate." His eyes fell, holding on my form for a moment longer. The thin t-shirt offered little concealment, and I made no effort to adjust it. I allowed the stillness, the charged silence, to do its work. Then I extended my hand, not to touch him, but to hover it just above my own leg, a suggestive, deliberate gesture. "I am aware of your gaze, Jack," I remarked softly. "There's no reason to put on a facade." His fingers danced restlessly at his sides. I could see the internal war raging within him. "I could have wished for your arrival sooner," I murmured, my voice dropping lower, weaving a web of intimacy around us. "What is it about today that finally brought you here?" Silence. He just stared at me, his composure beginning to fray. I leaned in, just within reach, allowing the warmth to flow between us, closing the space until I could feel his breath on my cheek. "Jack," I whispered, my lips almost brushing his ear. "I must ask, are you here to put an end to this? To play the role of the concerned father?" I inclined my head, my cheek gliding softly past his. "Or perhaps you simply find yourself weary of being excluded." And in that moment I closed the final inch between us. I pressed my lips against his. It was a gradual, certain kiss, a question and a statement all in one. He remained steadfast, his body rigid with shock, but he refused to pull away. Following the kiss, Jack remained silent, his gaze darting downward to my lips before returning to meet mine. I saw a transformation stir within him, a flicker of the patriarch giving way to the man. In an instant his resolve broke. One hand found its way to my waist, his grip firm, possessive. The other slipped behind my neck, his fingers tangling in my hair, drawing me in once more. In that moment, the kiss grew more intense. Steadfast, resolute, devoid of any doubt. He advanced with a new gravitas, with a raw intent as he guided me backward toward the couch. I found myself yielding without a hint of resistance. As he pulled my shirt upward, I lifted my arms in response, maintaining unwavering eye contact. His hands made contact with my bare skin, and I surrendered to the momentous shift, as if I had been anticipating this all along. I nudged him softly onto the plush cushions of the couch, and then I climbed into his lap, settling in with a deliberate, confident ease. His breath hitched as I pressed my body closer to his unwavering daring. I swayed my hips subtly, just enough to create a ripple of undeniable tension beneath me. "Do you still believe this is a misguided notion, Jack?" I murmured, my lips close to his. He remained silent for a beat, then his own hips moved just once, an answer more powerful than words. "Take your time," he replied, his voice a low, gravelly rasp. "More intentional." With my hands firmly at my sides, I felt anchored as we flowed together in perfect harmony. He took his time, just as he'd asked, allowing the tension, the heat to accumulate with each passing shift. He felt himself teetering on the brink of losing all control. I leaned closer, my lips grazing his ear. "Cease the facade," I whispered. His hands glided over my back, then descended once more, delving into the unknown with a mix of reverence and desperation. The atmosphere grew dense, the tension between us intensifying to a fever pitch. I pushed in once more with greater intensity. This time, he let out a sharp breath through his nostrils, his head tilting backward, his breath coming in quick, labored bursts. And just as I sensed his hesitation, the moment before he would lose himself completely, I withdrew. I descended from him with a deliberate, infuriating slowness. I picked up my shirt from the floor and gently slid it back into place as if nothing had transpired. He lingered in that moment, gasping, drawing in the air, savoring the stillness as he regained his composure, his eyes wide with a mixture of shock, frustration, and undeniable want, uncertain of what would follow. "You really ought to join us for dinner this evening," I remarked, my voice a mask of nonchalant calm, as I walked to the kitchen to pour myself that now cold coffee. Jack's eyes fluttered open and closed, a moment of pure surprise washing over him. "Dinner," he managed to say. I cast a fleeting look over my shoulder. "Mason, Adam, and you." His expression transformed entirely, a complex tapestry of emotions crossing his face. I filled a glass with water and savored a long, cool sip. "I'll take care of the cooking," I declared. "Just arrive with an appetite." He was enveloped in a stunned silence. He simply lingered for a moment, utterly astounded. Then his lips parted with a silent resolve. He stood, adjusted his clothing, and exited my home, leaving no words in his wake. This dinner, this was the true test, the culmination of everything that had been building. It wasn't just a meal, it was a reckoning. It was a dangerous game, and all the players were finally being called to the table. Are you on the edge of your seat? I know I was. If you are as invested in this as I am, please hit that like button and share your predictions for this dinner party in the comments. I'm dying to know what you think will happen. The knock arrived promptly at 6 o'clock. It wasn't one knock, but two almost simultaneous. One was a single decisive rap on the door. "Jack." The other was a more leisurely, hesitant pace, as if one were caught in the delicate balance between courtesy and deep self-assurance. "Mason." A few seconds later, a third softer knock. "Adam." Jack had departed in silence that morning, not uttering a single word as he walked away. Yet deep down, I was certain they would all arrive. Each one of them drawn by a force they couldn't name, or perhaps were too afraid to. The door creaked open, revealing the tableau beyond. Jack stood at the forefront, serene and composed as always, though I could see a new tension in his shoulders. Mason lingered in the shadows behind him, deliberately avoiding my gaze. And Adam? Sweet, conflicted. Adam hesitated on the welcome mat, shifting his weight from one foot to the other, as if he still possessed the luxury of time to flee. A slow smile graced my lips. Punctuality at its finest. I said, my voice a low, welcoming purr. "Please come in." They entered with a hushed, cautious grace, every individual seemingly more uncertain than the one before. I had set the stage perfectly. I wore a garment of delicate silver fabric, a brief off-the-shoulder dress that shimmered softly, reflecting the low light with each subtle shift of my body. There was nothing underneath. There were no regrets. The aroma of a slow-cooked meal simmered gently on the stove, while a bottle of deep red wine was already breathing on the counter. The table was elegantly arranged for four. The music was a gentle atmospheric murmur. The light was more subdued than customary. I embraced the role of the ideal host, greeting each of them individually with a light kiss on the cheek, as if there were nothing unusual about this gathering, as if I hadn't rested my legs across Jack's just that morning. I found myself seated at the head of the table, placing Jack and Mason on either side of me, with Adam directly opposite, trapped in my gaze. His shoulders were taut, his eyes flitting about the room anywhere but at me. He struggled to avert his gaze, and his performance left much to be desired. Under the table, I allowed my leg to brush softly against Jack's. He didn't flinch. As his silence lingered, I leaned in once more. "Take your time this time around," I whispered for his ears only. His hand, resting on his knee, quivered slightly. That was everything. I inquired of Mason regarding his weak, lightly grazing his arm as he responded. I then shifted my gaze to Adam. "Are you still involved with that girl from last summer?" He blinked, slowly, stuttered, and shook his head. I nodded as if it were of no consequence, yet my fingers found themselves wandering along Jack's thigh each passing minute at that table, growing increasingly deliciously tense. My voice descended into a deeper register. My smile hung in the air, stretching out its warmth. I refilled their glasses without a word of inquiry. Mason's eyes kept drifting toward my legs. Adam continued to fidget in his chair. Jack remained utterly motionless, a statue carved from granite, yet I sensed the subtle changes within him with each controlled inhalation. As the final morsels were consumed, I rose to gather the plates. "Stay still," I whispered to the room at large. "I shall return shortly." I made my way back from the kitchen with a deliberate slowness that felt different from before. The abandoned plates lingered in the kitchen sink, remnants of a meal that was never really about the food. All three remained in their seats, their silence a testament to their attention. They observed me with an air of profound uncertainty, as if questioning whether this could still be considered a meal, or perhaps something altogether different. I came to a halt next to the table. I met Jack's eyes first, then Mason's, then Adam's. Then I extended my hand toward the hem of my dress. With a swift and fluid gesture, I drew it up and over my head. Silence. Absolute. They all came to an abrupt halt. Mason's eyes grew wide with shock. Adam appeared as though he had momentarily lost the very essence of inhalation, his mouth slightly agape. And what of Jack? He tightened his jaw, his fist curling tightly on his thigh. I made my way toward Mason, gradual and unwavering, allowing the moment to unfold with each stride. I drew closer and pressed my lips against his. Deliberate, definite. I nestled into his lap, and his hands, as if by instinct, found their way to my hips, a familiar warmth enveloping us both. His breath caressed the side of my neck as I descended gradually, unfastening his garments, just enough to distinctly sense him beneath me. His hold on me grew more intense, digits pressing into my waist, his head tilting back as he released a sharp breath. I advanced toward him, calm and determined, allowing every movement to accumulate, his lips finding my shoulder, the rapid rise of his chest pressing against my back. "Do not restrain yourself," I murmured gently into his ear. "Release your inhibitions." And he surrendered. But my journey was far from complete. I chose to pivot my gaze. Jack. I spoke, my voice steady and unmistakable. He had observed everything from the shadows, remaining completely attired, jaw clenched. "Fix your gaze unwaveringly." As I extended my hand towards him, he took a step closer. I carefully unbuckled his belt, lowering the fabric with a graceful motion, my gaze firmly fixed upon his. He emerged with a serene composure, yet the tension etched upon his features betrayed him. Continuing to move over Mason, I inclined my body ever so slightly and drew Jack nearer. His hand lingered gently at the nape of my neck as I drew closer, bestowing gentle kisses upon him. My own hands, a playful map of our new reality, one pressed firmly against Mason's chest, the other resting gently against Jack's hip. The atmosphere thrummed with life, with a dangerous electric energy. I hesitated, drawing back just a bit. "Remain near," I whispered softly. Then I turned my gaze to the one who remained still. Adam. Still perched on the edge of his chair, as if uncertainty had paralyzed him. I slipped away from Mason, the heat still pulsing within me, and traversed the room with a deliberate slowness. Adam remained still unresponsive until my lips met his. His were soft, enticing, hesitant. At that moment he released a long, shuddering, awaited breath. I gently eased his shirt away from his body, observing the rise and fall of his chest in a rhythm that was anything but steady. Then I moved closer, our connection deepening. I sank to my knees before him, placing a lingering kiss upon his hip before playfully prodding deeper. His entire form convulsed. I rested a hand upon his thigh, the other behind me, providing a sense of balance. Jack followed his hands, finding my waist, his body nestled gently against mine. I inhaled quietly, my breath hitching against Adam, as I found a fresh cadence, Jack holding me steady from behind, every movement deliberate and unhurried. I aligned myself, pressing on with Adam, allowing the gravity of the moment to envelop the three of us. I once believed in my own strength and my own self-sufficiency. I realized that I was whole on my own. Yet this evening it dawned on me. The void within me was never intended to be satisfied by the mere caress of a single man. 3 were essential to me. 3 individuals. 3 sets of eyes to observe me. 3 breaths to intertwine with mine in perfect harmony. Mason fulfilled the raw, youthful craving I had concealed deep within. Jack tempered that hunger with a solid, powerful assurance of conviction and experience. And what of Adam? He emerged as the unexpected revelation, the tender, uncertain silence that upon contact ignited with the intensity of flames. In the presence of all 3, I finally found myself complete. A sense of completeness enveloped me, not solely within my physical form, but in a realm beyond that, a depth untouched by any single soul. The void within me was at last entirely and perfectly filled.